Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life. I'm your host, Lori Palau. So excited that you are here. Before we get into today's episode, and it's a good one because it's part of our Ask an Expert series. So I'm really excited whenever I get to answer any of your questions. I did want to let you know about this new resource guide that we have for you guys. If you're new to our show, this is actually a really good place for you to start because it's got basically a highlight summary of all of our favorite things. It's got some bingeable episodes for you based on topics. It also has like some places for you to get started based on wherever you are in your personal or professional organizing journey. And it's also chock full of resources like books and products and online tools that I use and love and refer for people. So whether you've been with us for a while or you're brand new to our show, check it out. I'm going to drop the link below. It's also going to be on our website, simply the letter B like boy, organized.com. So go check that out. Just a reminder, our episodes this month are sponsored from our good friends over at the Digital Wrangler. Talked about them before, but again, the Digital Wrangler is our go-to resource hub for all specifically targeted products and services relating to helping you streamline and organize your digital life. My friend Kate Huffnagel has put together this amazing foundations course that walks you through a module of 12 different key areas of your life to help you streamline and organize everything under one umbrella. So when something goes awry, everyone knows where everything is. And that's really, to me, the crux of living an organized life. So check out thedigitalwrangler.com/TOL. Now, onto today's episode. So, as I mentioned, this episode was recommended by one of our listeners, and I'm going to call her Jenny because she wanted to remain anonymous. And I'm going to read her question, and then we're going to dive into the answer. And if you are watching this on YouTube and you see me kind of looking down, I actually have a bunch of notes here that I took because I want to make sure that I'm answering this, accurately and giving like proper information. So here we go. Hi. First, thank you for the work that you do. Your podcast was my first introduction to minimalism and decluttering and was truly a game changer for me. I have 5 kids and was feeling very overwhelmed. No kidding. And the steps I've taken over the past year and a half have been transformational for me. Way to go, Jenny. Your podcast also introduced me to the Enneagram and ADHD. I'm a true Enneagram 9, but there are also things that really resonate with me regarding the inattentive type 2 ADHD. My husband is convinced that I have it. For your Ask an Expert series, would you be interested in exploring the Enneagram 9 traits versus the ADHD inattentive type, since they seem to overlap? Also, there might be some situational overwhelm that I'm having, but that could also come because of having 5 kids. Yes, I would say that. Selfishly seeking to learn more about myself through your podcast as I pursue my own adventures and avenues. Thank you for your consideration, Lori. Well, thank you, Jenny, for writing in. And I just want to put a real clear and official disclaimer out that I'm not a medical professional. Any of these advice, recommendations, suggestions are just my opinion. If you or someone you love thinks they may have ADHD or is struggling with ADHD, I highly encourage you to seek the help of a medical professional. A diagnosis truly can only be done through a neuropsych evaluation. So again, you might exhibit traits. I think more and more of us are exhibiting traits of ADHD just because of the world that we live in, where we have, these phones attached to us 24/7, and we have information coming at us from all avenues. But truly, if you my very first recommendation for anybody that thinks I might be struggling with this is to seek the diagnosis from a medical professional. You can read about it and learn about it, but before you do anything, I think it is really helpful to get that official diagnosis. Now, that being said, I want to just give some context for and descriptions of what an ADHD inattentive type looks like. And again, there's not a one size fits all, but what is a definition of that, and a little bit about the Enneagram. So, first of all, and I'm just going to actually read this because I wanted to print it out to make sure, again, I was quoting things accurately. So, first and foremost, ADHD is a neurodevelopmental condition, and it is diagnosed, again, through a neuropsych evaluation. Some of the key characteristics of the inattentive type is they have trouble with organization and prioritizing, forgetfulness and frequent distractions, challenges in task initiation, meaning getting started, but also completion. So it's this getting started and also the seeing it through. The inattentive type is counterintuitive to what the stereotypical ADHD characteristic person would be, right? When we think about, again, a kid with like ants in their pants and they're bouncing off the walls and they can't sit still and they're jittery. It's like, oh my gosh, you have ADHD. The inattentive type might not present that way. And that's why a lot of people, especially adults nowadays, are getting diagnosed with the inattentive ADHD because it's not stuff that you would see behaviorally, right? It's really what's going on kind of behind the scenes in your brain. And it doesn't always look that way. And so people just overlooked it. Plus, it wasn't something that was as widely talked about nowadays. So as it's becoming more mainstream, there's more awareness about it, more research about it, there's more diagnosis. So again, that's a little kind of summary of your ADHD inattentive type, right? They really struggle with that executive function, the procedural processing, the getting started on tasks, and seeing them through. Now, your Enneagram Nines, again, the Enneagram is a personality typology that looks at motivation, and each of the different types has different characteristics. Now, the nines, their motivation, they have a desire for peace and they are conflict avoidant. So they will oftentimes have a tendency towards indecision and procrastination, because if they make a decision, it can oftentimes make them fear that is going to pose a conflict. And so they would rather procrastinate as opposed to kind of facing the music, because facing the music could present itself in a conflict. And the biggest motivation for nines is keeping the peace. And so they will oftentimes just avoid things, and they will avoid difficult emotions. And we know that clutter can be overwhelming and bring up a lot of different emotions. And so nines typically want to avoid that. Now, there's a lot of amazing things about nines. They are very adaptable. They have good mediation skills. So they're like that, that person that can see all sides to an equation. They, again, very harmony seeking. They have like a very harmony seeking nature. So they don't get frazzled easily, which is great. But they oftentimes you will see a lot of nines procrastinate. But the difference is the nine is going to procrastinate because they're trying to avoid a conflict. When you are procrastinating as a result of ADHD, it's not that you're doing it intentionally because you want to avoid a conflict. It's you don't have the executive function ability to be able to either initiate or complete said task. And so procrastination is the method that it just winds up happening as a way to not have to do something that is really difficult for you. So both the Enneagram Nines and the ADHD individual can struggle with feeling overwhelmed. They are both struggling with the procrastination. But one of them is more, I think the biggest difference is one is conflict avoidant and one is task avoidant. So the motivation, if we were to say, is the task is what's really hard for the ADHD person. And for the Enneagram Nine, it's not that the task is so hard, but it's that fear of conflict that gets in their way, if that makes sense to you guys. But on the surface, they can both present very similar, right? You see a couple people that are procrastinating, you see people that are avoiding things. Nines also, because of their ability to kind of like mediate and see all sides, figuring out like how to prioritize things of what to do first, what to do second, what to do third can oftentimes be a struggle for the nines. And that also can fall into that procedural processing where a lot of ADHD people struggle. So again, if you're just looking at it at face value, they can appear very similar, but truly underneath the surface, one of them is neurologic and one of them is more of a personality trait. And so I think the takeaway is this, especially for Jenny, right? I'm talking to you out there, all of you out there, but specifically to Jenny, who wrote in on this. You're a nine, you said. So you know that you are going to be struggle with being conflict avoidant. You're going to struggle with procrastination. If you suspect that you are also struggling with some inattentive ADHD, I think it would behoove you to talk to a medical professional about getting evaluated for that. Now, I also can tell you as a mom, now I'm only a mom of two and a couple of bonus kids around, but you have 5 humans that you're responsible for. It would be unheard of for you not to be overwhelmed. So the fact that things might fall through the cracks or that you might procrastinate on certain things might just be situational because you have so many balls in the air that you're juggling. So there is kind of this 3-part equation of what is situational to your life, what is kind of your Enneagram 9 personality type presenting itself, and then if there is this ADHD component, how much is that playing in it? How much of that is playing a role? I think whatever the root cause is, figuring out the easiest way for you to start and complete a task is what's going to be your goal, right? How can I get to do the things that I want to do that either don't get completed or don't get started? I'm assuming, again, total assumption here, that there's just not enough hours in the day for you to do the things that you want to do, just given the fact that you have the demands of being responsible for 5 other young humans. I don't think you specify the ages of your kids, but I can only imagine that that is taking up a lot of your mental bandwidth as well as your time. But if you do think that the ADHD is playing a role, then I would talk to a doctor about that. Certainly not a proponent of medicine. I think that certainly can help certain people, but for a lot of people, and I'm not saying this should be a replacement for any medicine. Again, this is my opinion, not medical advice. Finding the right strategies, whether it is in conjunction with medicine or not, is what's really going to be a game changer. I don't think medicine alone fixes anything. But I do think that having a right system and strategy to adapt to your life, to your situation, all of those things are going to be really, really pivotal for you. And I do see a lot of people that come and talk to me about neurodiversity and the Enneagram and the role it plays. And I say they're really 2 different things. At the end of the day, one of them is a personality, a little bit about who we are and how we show up in the world. And the other one is a neurodiverse diagnosis, right? It's how we are wired. And so, although there are some similarities, there are some very distinct differences. So I hope that this helped to clarify. Again, I think it's important to look at both because they both might play a role in your world. And really just the fact that you're asking the questions and looking at yourself and saying, this is where I'm struggling. And I know that I need to start to institute some systems and strategies that are going to make me feel less chaotic, less overwhelmed, less anxious, and be more productive and calm and present and all the things that we want to be is a great first step. So if you have a question for our Ask an Expert series, there's a couple ways that you can connect up with us. The easiest place is go to our website, simplybeorganized.com. We'll also have a link below. You go to our contact page. From there, you can do one of two things. You can either send us an email, which goes directly to mine and my team's inbox. So you can just send us an email with your question, or there's a little link to a speak pipe where you just press that button and you can do an audio recording, and it just sends and gets sent to us an audio recording. So you can just ask us your question. And if you want to come on the show and discuss it, we can reach out to you and have you be a guest on the show. We've had guests on before. We had one last month. Or you can have it be anonymous like this one, and we'll just read it and answer it on the air. But we want to hear from you. We want to know where you're struggling and try to help you find some solutions. So that's it for today's episode. Just remember, download our resource guide with all kinds of great information, and check out our friends over at thedigitalwrangler.com/TOL. I'll be back next week for another episode. Until then, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out.